Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the FTD Virtual Design Show titled Holiday Designs with a Profitable Twist, featuring Suzie Kostick, AIFD. As a quick housekeeping note, Suzie will be taking questions during the session. If you have a question for her, simply type it in the chat box in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. All right, let's get started. Welcome, Suzie.
Hello, Janet. Thanks for inviting me to be here to kick off the holiday season. It's hard to believe that today is the first day of autumn. I don't know about you, but I'm not ready for summer to be over with yet, but it is. And now that we know that it is autumn, the holidays are just around the corner and they're going to sneak up on us really, really fast. So today we're just going to go over a few little tips and some tricks about preparing for the holiday, how to design a little smarter for the holidays. Just some tips on evergreens and using some of these great containers provided by FTD. So without further ado, I say let's get started. I'm going to show you some design work, okay? So we started off here with the cinch vase, and I love this. This is the small cinch vase, which I just found out this morning actually is on sale right now. There's a special going on. I have to check my notes. So if you get order 3 or more cases of this small cinch vase, you save 10%. And here's a real good thing: there's free shipping within the continental US on this for today and tomorrow. So if you use this vase, or if you haven't used this vase and you've been wanting to try it, now that they're on special, this is a great chance to order some of these vases because they're fantastic. What I love about this vase is that it's compact, it's short, but it's still tall enough that it really holds stems nicely. And the mouth is very wide, so you can really pack a lot or get that really loose flow design, which is so popular right now. We're seeing that trend away from really tightly packed or almost like conical shaped based arrangements into arrangements that are spread out, are more romantic, botanical, and loose in form. And this vase is really perfect for it. Another great thing about this vase is it has that cinch in it, which makes it a perfect place to tie like a little accent ribbon or some raffia, or to tie a little accent on it. So it's very versatile. And I had never used it until I just ordered it. And I'm really glad I did, because now it's one of my very favorite vases. So I created in that vase my first piece, which is my fall design. And I started off in this design by just loosely inserting the eucalyptus, making sure that I cleaned off the stems because we want to make sure there's no foliage in the water. And I just loosely arranged. I actually took 3 or 4 pieces, gave them a nice fresh cut, and then inserted them in. I didn't take the time to do 1, 2, 3. We all know at holiday time, we don't have time to create designs that have a lot of insertions. Insertions is time and time is money. So we want to be very aware of the designs we're creating, especially for the holiday season, and our in-store specials that are efficient in design. And this design is very efficient because it's basically a half a bunch of the eucalyptus cut and then inserted down into the vase. And then I just created my design in that grid that was made by the stems of the eucalyptus. I have some sunflowers, some spray roses, some of these really cute little novelty dianthus in a purple. And a lot of times people have a hard time using purple for the fall holidays. And I think purple is a great pop of color. And when you mix it with the deeper tones of the burgundies and the wines, and even some of that rust color, it really looks rich and adds a lot of texture to the design. I've used some pumpkin trees, some solidago, Viking pomps, and then I have like a little phoenix shooting out of the design of the wheat. But again, it's all very simple. I didn't break a lot of the stems apart. You know, a lot of times you'll insert one little bloom or one little bloom. The Viking pomps are all one stem, cut and inserted. The same with the dianthus. I didn't break the stems apart at all the laterals. If there was one that was way far down, I might have broken it off or cut it off and then used it into my design. But I used full stems. I didn't take a lot of time to break things apart because, again, it goes back to what I said earlier. That's a lot of insertions, and insertions is time, and time is money. It's something that we don't want to waste during the holiday season when we're prepping. I just finished off the vase with a kind of a chocolate covered satin ribbon to help bring in the warm fall tones, but very simple design, just takes a few minutes to make. Use some premium blossoms and this great cinch vase here that we have today. So that's my fall vase design. Take a quick note here of the 2 rectangle boxes. I love these containers. I love them for the fact that they have some heft to it. They have weight to it. The finishes are very nice and they're just really a great size. They come with a plastic liner, which is really easy for production work because you can get all these set up in advance. And what I usually do is if I'm doing production work is I will glue the foam right into the plastic container. That way I don't have to tape it, and I will, have my big soaking bucket right into, I'll just put the whole plastic liner with my floral foam glued in and dunk it into that soaking container and let it soak that way. And then all I have to do is put it back in. I don't have to worry about it falling out because this is very deep. So once you get the foam in there, it weights it in and it's not going to tip over in delivery. So I just really love these. And the other thing that I love these about is, what I love about these is that they're everyday, but they easily transition into just about any holiday. You can use these in the fall, these in the winter, again in the spring, and again in the summer. So when you're looking at ordering containers, don't always think that you have to buy novelty containers for your holiday season, because then if something happens and you don't sell all the novelty, you're stuck with a bunch of red containers at Christmas, which sometimes you can use at Valentine's Day, but sometimes not. But I've always liked to pretty much stock my store specials with everyday style containers that then I can just transition the design into a seasonal look rather than the container itself. And that way I can order in bulk, I can have them available. And quite honestly, I found that my customers kind of like to see this container, and every season it was changed into a different type of design, but they got very used to knowing that they could always come in and get this, and no matter what the season, or if I had a great special on product on flowers, I would change the look slightly, but the container remained the same. And these 2 containers here give you that flexibility to do that. My fall design in that white container is a little more spread out. It kind of brings in that natural romantic look that I spoke about earlier. I think too, sometimes when we get with holidays, we tend to overthink and try to make the design too difficult. And I think if we design more simply and we look at what we're creating, then our efficiency is much better and our profit margin is much better that way. This design, I know it looks like it's very full and has a lot, but each placement of flower is very much determined so that it really stands out. I have my 2 sunflowers here on my right, and they're kind of grouped together and they create a line down into the focal point of the design. I have these beautiful, which you probably can't really determine and see on there, maybe this way. They're kind of an antique mauve chrysanthemum, and I'm loving the fact that we're using more chrysanthemums. For a long time, chrysanthemums were kind of that ugly stepchild, and we didn't want to use them. And now the colors that they're coming out with and the varieties are so gorgeous that we're seeing that resurgence and everybody wanting to use more chrysanthemums in their designs. So I'm really excited about that myself, because I think the chrysanthemum was always kind of, not given its credit and its due, because it's so long lasting and it's so beautiful when you really just look at the flower. So finally we get to use them again. But we have, starting here, I just did a line of that chrysanthemum. I grouped them together to make them more impactful in the design. The same with on this side of the design with this kind of a dark burgundy or raspberry color celosia. And then I've just tucked some bright green carnations down in. That really is what covers My mechanics, I am using in all my designs. I'm using the Smithers Oasis Midnight Foam, which I absolutely love because it allows me to use a lot less product because you can't see the mechanics inside the design. But again, I just grouped everything so that the color groupings are creating strength and visual impact, as well as I'm allowed to use a lot less product than if I were to sprinkle all the mums throughout the design. They would lose their visual impact. They wouldn't be as strong and noticeable if they were polka dotted around the design. So creating those groupings and those lines strengthens the design, overall design. Janet, do we have any questions so far?
Nope, we're good so far. Great design, so I love it.
Thank you. You can probably tell by my froggy voice, I have one of those summer colds, so excuse my sip here.
We do have a question that just came in from Teresa.
What is it?
What greens in addition to the seated uke?
In the vase arrangement, I'm assuming? There is no other additional greens. They're just the seated uke. There's actually the seated uke and the silver dollar uke in the vase design.
No, she said no, the rectangle one.
The rectangle one. Oh. I used a little bit. I did bring in some of the evergreens into this. So that's what you see that's flowing over here. I've got the Port Orford or Western cedar over on the tips to get my long length on the design. I do have just a couple little pieces of juniper for texture and then some boxwood in this design. And again, I did the same thing with grouping where I placed my greens is the cedar comes out to the side to give me my horizontal line. And then my boxwood comes across this way. And then the juniper is tucked on either side, one little piece on either side. So very planned out where I use the greens. There's very few greens in this. I think total was a half a stem of the cedar because it was so full and lovely. And when you pull it apart, you get so much out of it. So, I mean, I think I used maybe it's a whole stem of cedar and just a couple sprigs of the boxwood and then 2 little sprigs of the juniper. Good question. Thanks for asking.
Great. Thanks, Susie. And then Roger wanted to know if those pumpkin stems are real or faux.
It's pumpkin tree. It's real. It's a fresh product. They're cute little pumpkins. I know they're not real pumpkins, and I honestly don't know much about it to tell you, botanically what family it belongs to, but they're just cute little pumpkin-like gourds or whatever. And I always forget every year when I get it to use, it does have a thorn on it. The stem is very much like a rose thorn. And although the stem is very thick and you would think it's woody, it's not. It cuts like a rose stem. So I don't know if somebody on here knows a little bit more about the pumpkin tree. That's what we call this branch here is pumpkin tree. And I honestly don't know more about it than it's available usually during the fall. And it's just a fun little item to use in your fall designs because it does add just those little teeny tiny pumpkins, spraying on there. This design here is in this great kind of the brown natural container. It's a little bit longer. I want to say this might be 9 inches, and I think this one is 7 inches. I could be wrong. But how I created this, it's very much intentional to be a vertical design. Now we know I've had customers come in before into my shop around the holiday time, Thanksgiving, and they would remark, well, I need flowers on my table, but I don't want a big, large arrangement that takes up a whole lot of space. This is the perfect kind of solution to that because it's narrow and they're long, and you could do 2 or 3 depending on the size of the table down the center. And because everything is designed more vertically up, it's not taking away a lot of space. You could still put, the mashed potatoes and the gravy all around it without the flowers interfering. So it won't take up a lot of table space on your dining tables. So I like to do this type of design for centerpieces. The other thing that's really great about this, and this is, one of those tricks about the holiday time and production work, is that we need to make a lot of these up in advance, but then we run out of cooler space, right? So what do you do when something like this allows you to store a lot of these designs, because it's really just all vertical. You can store multiple on a shelf, where when you have those long and low traditional centerpieces, they take up a lot of space. So you're still getting that visual impact, but you're not taking up a lot of space in your cooler. So you can make these up in advance, have them ready. They don't take up too much space, good thing, and they deliver very easily. So a real good bonus that when you're thinking of your holiday design work, think about not just what the design looks like at the end, how beautiful it's going to be, but think about how much space do you have in your cooler or in your storage area to actually be productive and do your work ahead of schedule. If you don't have a lot of space, then it's really important that you design efficiently and design smart. And something like this allows you to do that. So with this design, and I'm going to show you when we get to the Christmas section how I did this, but the first placements are my foliage. And for the most part, all the foliage is going this way. It's almost creating a little hedge around the container. I purposely, I want you to see the break of that base of the container there. Just a few little pieces coming over for interest, but mostly everything is placed vertically around the edge. So I leave the center of the container open. There's no foliage in that center. So then I can come in with a big focal flower, which in this case is that beautiful bright yellow sunflower. And then I have one little stem of the Queen Anne's lace, a couple stems of celosia. I have I only have one stem of hypericum over here. And then I have two stems of the pumpkin tree. Not a whole lot of product, not a whole lot of insertions, but certainly if you had 1, 2, or 3 of these down the center of a dining table, very impactful and very smart design wise. So here's the beginning of that design only it's in Christmas. So as you can see, I think you can, I have my foam and it's actually down even with the container. It does not come up. I'm trying to get you where you can actually see that. The foam sinks down even level with the rim, the top of the container. And then I've just started adding my evergreens, in this case, around like a hedge. And it's actually open in the center. So you can see the foam right here. And that's where I'm going to design my flowers. So as I continue on, get my tools here. And this is a good time of year. And I just realized that as I was pulling out all my tools to prep for this little program here, this is a real good time to make sure you have good tools. Let's face it, they're not going to last forever. Make an investment in them, but still, every once in a while, you have to get yourself a new knife, get yourself some new pruners or whatever, or wire cutters, and make sure that you're going into this holiday season with the right tools so that you can be more efficient and more productive with your work. If you have dull knives and dull pruners, especially when you're cutting through those big branches, it's just going to be frustrating and it's going to slow your production down. And that's not what we want. So now's a really good time to check your tools and the tools of your staff and make sure everybody has everything they need to be really efficient and productive designers come this holiday season.
Susie, Teresa wants to know what greens are in that arrangement. What are you working with there?
Right now, I have a little bit of noble fir, and I have some Fraser fir, and I have a little bit of juniper and some pine. So
that was all sent from.
It was all sent from, I'm going to get my little cheat notes out here. All the evergreens were provided by the FTD Flower Exchange Farms. So they gathered up all these beautiful greens for me and sent them in this great sample box. I'm going to tell you, I was highly impressed with the quality of the product. So you can rest assured that if you're ordering your stuff through the FTD Exchange, and the farms that they're using, especially for these Christmas greens, especially since it's still a little early, They are gorgeous. They are beautiful. And my whole home smells just so delightful right now. I'm just in love with them. But I even got boxwood in my mixed pack. So they're really, really cool. And let me see, I've got some more here. We've got a little special, and Janet will have all these notes for you so that you can go back. I'm going to just use my cheat sheet. So FTD members will receive a 50% discount on all orders placed with the FTDflowerexchange.com. And this is valid for orders placed from September 22nd through the 30th of this year, and valid for all products currently available online, including pre-books for the full fall season. So if you haven't started getting your fall flowers, I hope you have, but if you haven't, I know everyone's really busy, which is a good problem to have, but I know that there are people who are still getting, into the fall season. This is a great opportunity with that 50% discount on your orders to definitely take advantage of that.
And for clarification for Amy, that's 15%. Not, she was asking if it was 50.
That's my cold. Sorry, 1515.
And we did have another question. Somebody was asking if you have any tips on removing pine tar from your hands.
That is the age-old question. You know what? I just have a really good scrub brush, and I will keep like some coconut oil or some kind of an oil-based product, whether it's a skin oil. I have like a Burt's Bee has like a lemon oil that they have. I will keep that in a good scrub brush and make sure that every day when you're done, you just scrub. There's a lot of things out there. A lot of sprays. I'm old school. I used to use that Design Master Mess Master cleaner, and then one day you read the can and it says don't spray it on your skin, but that works great. Really, it's just keeping it just, you got to clean them every day. It's the nature of our industry. We're going to have pine pitch. We're going to have that on our hands. In fact, before I got on it, I looked and I had pine pitch all the way down both of my arms and on the back. I'm like, well, here we go. It's that season already. But yeah, just a nice good scrub brush and some oil, and that will get it off. And then make sure you keep your hands moisturized. That's really, really important. That helps keep it to come off easier if you keep your hands moisturized.
Yeah, everybody's been dropping a lot of hints of what that works for them in the chat.
Yeah, good, because everyone has found their own thing that works.
Yeah, WD-40. Yeah. Karen uses invisible gloves that she says a liquid in the bottle. Alma uses Dove dishwashing liquid, but works for the ducks. Oil on the ducks.
Yeah, it works great. Dawn works great. Okay, one thing that I love to do is I'm not one who will, take my green and pick it up, and I like to prepare it. So I go through and I kind of know what I want to do, and I trim it before I start designing. It's kind of that same theory when we're making a hand-tied bouquet. We prepare all our greens and our products and flowers and lay them out. I do the same thing when I'm working with evergreens, is that I will take my branch and I will look at what I need and I will start cutting everything off right at the beginning. Not gonna want to go. There we go. Look at that gorgeous piece of noble fir. And so I just go through and I cut everything I need off. So that I can design quickly and more efficiently. And I'm loving the juniper. I know that there's a lot of people out there that just hate the juniper because the smell is a little bit strong for some people. But let me tell you, it's going to be a really, really, really ask for foliage, especially this year and the upcoming years. It's because of the texture and the color of it. And we all know that texture is huge in design right now. And that blue, dusty kind of gray color is just still so popular. So if you're one of those people who just really hate juniper, I just beg you to just kind of become friends with it. Go ahead and just make amends and love on some juniper because it really, really, really gives you a lot of impact. So the trick with this is that, we have a tendency to design inward with the greens facing up, but because I'm creating a hedge, I have to make sure that the outside or the face of the green, especially on one that is one-sided, faces outward. And I cut, and I always kind of shave down because I want that pointy edge on my green so that it inserts into the foam easily. And then once it's into that foam, that wood is going to swell and it's going to hold it in place. So yes, I do take a second and just, do a little whittling on my stems. So I have that great, easy insertion into the foam. And come back in, and you really don't need a whole lot of greenery with this kind of style of design. Some juniper. And I am a knife designer. I do have some of, the scissors that are so popular right now. I still just, for some reason, am a knife girl. I haven't quite mastered those, but I do have them, and they're great with some of the evergreens. So whatever works best for you, that's what you should be using. Whatever makes you a more efficient and smarter designer, that's what I encourage you to use. Okay, so now we've got it filled in, and it's still, you can still see there's still kind of that gap in the center, that hole in the center there. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to fill it with my blossoms. And in this case, I'm just going to take a hydrangea. And I'm going to, I broke it apart. So if I were doing this in production, and especially if I had, nice, big, beautiful hydrangeas, I would have 2 or 3 or 4 of these all set up in a line, boom, boom, boom. And you could probably, get away with using one hydrangea for 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how big it is. Because as you can see, I've already got my base filled. I just want a tuck of color down inside. And I'm going to come up with some of these novelty red miniature carnations. Carnation is another one that is kind of, it's got that rebirth happening again. And we've got these new varieties, especially in the miniatures, that they're really fun. This one, wish I knew what the variety was, but it's almost like a single petal. And then some of the green chrysanthemums. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot to fill this in. And it just makes a fun, cute little arrangement. You could easily tie a cute little ribbon around it this way, or even over the center. If you took your ribbon and tied it around and then had a bow right here to make it look like a package, that would even take up a little more space. So it'd be fewer flowers, fewer insertions if you're trying to be budget conscious in this particular special that you're going to feature. You want to have different price points. You can use this one container and do this type of an arrangement. You could do a more vertical type arrangement, do something very, very tall. You could do something more horizontal and have 3 different looks and price points, all in the same container. You can see how that's filling in. Then I'm going to come in, let's see. I have my little fun picks. In this case, let's do some Christmas trees. And I've got these green little Christmas trees here. I'm just going to put a couple of those in. So this kind of looks like, it's like out in nature. It looks like you're going for a walk on the Christmas tree farm. There you go, quick, easy. And if you're doing these production style, these arrangements probably should take you maybe at the most 5 to 8 minutes each to make. And the other great thing about this is after at the end of the day, when you have all your arrangements made and you're left with these little bits and pieces of greens that you didn't use, that's what works so great. to fill in these little hedgerow designs, is all the little pieces that are really short that didn't get used in something else. So another good thing, practice would be to have one of these set up on your desk. And as the day goes by and you have all those little snippets that didn't make it into the other arrangements, you can create these designs and not waste any of your money whatsoever.
Susie, we've got another question that came in.
Yes.
Do you have any tips on working with pine cones without wooden picks?
Without wooden picks?
Yep.
I'm not quite sure what the question, as far as like, you need to almost put them on picks, on wooden picks, if they don't come with it. Another thing that I have done with them is I've taken the paper covered bind wire, and I don't really have anything to show you, but if you had 3 or 4 pine cones, you take the paper covered bind wire and you wrap it around, this part of the pine cone, and then give yourself a little space, wrap it around another pine cone, give yourself a little space. So you almost create a garland of pine cones, and then you can just literally tuck that and lay that over your design, especially in a design like this. If I had that garland, I could just take it then and lay it over the design, and then I wouldn't have to have all those picks and wooden picks. But if you don't have, if you're collecting your own pine cones maybe, or you order them and they don't come with picks, you really need to figure out how you're going to use them in what application. Into a design, they really need to have some type of a pick on them. If I'm putting them into like vase arrangements, I will use, this is flocked wire. And so it's very sturdy. And then I just wrap it around the base of and then it gives me a nice long stem to insert down into the vase arrangement. Because sometimes if you're using a hyacinth stick or even one of the wired cowie picks, they have that green dye, and then that green dye a lot of times discolors the water. But on these flocked wire, it doesn't do that. So that's what I do if I have pine cones that don't have wire or a stem, and I need to have, give them that. I really kind of think how I'm going to use that, and then come up with the plan of what I need to do to create the mechanic for it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, great idea. I love the garland idea. It's kind of fun.
Okay, so kind of in the same style that we did in the fall, we have something that's more horizontal in the white wooden box. And again, I was very specific I used the pine to create the modified or soft crescent look. And, we're seeing a lot more in that romantic, I'm not even sure, because I don't think we've really kind of come up with a name for it, but that botanical loose form. They're very crescent shaped, asymmetrical designs. What that's saying to me is that we get to be a little looser. We don't have to overstuff the arrangements. We are allowed to let each little green have its own place and movement within the design. It also is something that the consumer likes. If they've been around and they've seen them, and especially in wedding and on the Pinterest and all the other areas, they've seen that relaxed botanical look, and they're liking it and they want it. So don't overstuff or overpack your designs. Just be more casual in your design style. And I know there's a lot of people who will say, well, they kind of look like amateurs did it, or they don't look like a professional did it. Well, they do when you do it right. You can tell the difference from a relaxed, organic, unstyled design that a professional has done and one that just somebody has randomly done. So don't ever worry about that, as long as you know that you have your elements and your principles in there, and you have your balance, and you have line, and you have focal. If you have all those, your design will stand out, and it will, even though it's relaxed and it's uncomplicated, it will still show that you're a professional floral designer. So don't ever worry about that. But that's kind of what, where I took with this design. It is very relaxed. It has a lot of movement to it. It has that kind of a loose form of a crescent shape. Has flowers tucked down in with that one hydrangea there, trying to bring the white of the box up and through the design. And I've done that also with these little snowflake picks, and then just some beautiful red roses, some peppermint striped miniature carnations, and those green mums to complete the design. But just a great use of this lovely little container. And then my vase design for the holidays. Again, I'm going back to that. Let's not overthink, let's not overstuff this design. It's just some loose evergreens. I've used pine, I've used the Fraser fir and juniper and cedar as far as the evergreens go. And then I added some seeded eucalyptus, and don't be afraid to mix what we call our everyday greens in with your holiday greens, magnolia and salal and huckleberry and myrtle. Those all look really great and work very well with evergreen. So don't be afraid. Pittosporum is another one that looks great. It has a great texture and color. They're variegated to use with evergreen. So go ahead and use the combinations. You don't have to just stick to all everyday or what we consider everyday greens and then all evergreens. You can mix them because they add lots of great texture and color variations when you do that. But this is so simple to do. It was 5 stems. Now I will tell you that these Alstroemeria were just fabulous. They had just the most gorgeous open blooms on it, but it's 5 stems of Alstroemeria and 5 stems of this little fancy red miniature carnation. So, when you're doing your counts and you have that, we've got Alstroemeria coming in bunches of 10. So one bunch will do 2 vases. Makes it really easy for you to calculate how much you need to order. And it makes it real easy for the designer to know that they, just have to 5 and 5, boom, it's done. So don't overthink when you're making your recipes for your holiday designs. Don't overthink the recipes. Keep it simple. Watch your counts so that you're counting so that you don't have, all these 1s or 2s left over from a bunch. Do it in numbers where they're going to equal a bunch so that when you're doing production work, it's really easy to just fly through everything. But I just loved it. Again, that cinch vase allowed me to get this space in this design. If it was a smaller opening, everything would be more, focaled up. Well, this just allowed me to spray it out and let each one of those little white Alstroemeria just dance on top of the evergreens and these little miniature carnations. I just am really pleased with the way that this design turned out, and then just added the holiday ribbon to it and a few green ornaments to it just for a little sparkle. Very simple, very easy design to create.
Cute little ribbon on there, Suzie.
Thank you.
Lynn had a question. Do you start with the flowers first or with the greens first on your design?
I start with the greens first.
Okay.
And that's just my design way of doing things. Is I like to get that base that creates my my mechanic in essence when I weave those greens in. And I don't overstuff it with greens. I don't, I've seen designers where they're stuffing until it's almost like the entire form is foliage. I just put enough in there so that it creates a woven grid. And then once that's in there, then I can start inserting my flowers so I know they're going to stay exactly where they need to stay. One thing though that I do want to remind you that even though you're working with evergreens and they do have a tendency to have the foliage, be mindful when you're designing into a glass vase that you remove the foliage that's going under the water. Evergreen foliage is a little bit more sturdier, but it still will create bacteria in the water. So we want to, be good designers and remove that foliage on the bottom. So even when it comes to, the juniper, any of those, you just got to go in there and remove that foliage before you insert it into your vase. Give it a nice, slanted cut. You don't necessarily have to whittle it when you're doing it into a vase design, but you do want to give it that nice cut so that you do expose some of that, and then you're good to go into your vase design.
Susie, we've got a question from Teresa. I'm not sure if it's because she was asking if you ever grid the cinched base with the clear tape, but I know you mentioned at the beginning that you're new to using, this was like the first time you used the cinched base.
I'll be honest with you, and I can't answer that, is I'm a believer that if I don't have to do something, I'm not going to do it just because. And so I tend not to grid, tape the grid on there. Now, if you're more comfortable, you've got to know your designers and how you design, and you also have to know your delivery people. So yes, in a design where it's not necessarily has a grid taped on it, or I'm not designing down into some type of an armature, you have to make sure that you're designing our crisscross so that it doesn't fall out of the vase. I have found with this vase, it's deep enough that won't happen. So I would not tape this just because I'm confident in my design. Now you may feel better, or that your designers or your team might have a little struggle with it. So go ahead and tape it. I think it's a personal preference rather than what's right or wrong. It's really a preference, and what works best in your shop and with your team and your delivery people as well. So you certainly could do that. I did not, and I probably would not, unless I needed to have something really, really tall into it. If I was going to go way big with the arrangement, then I might go ahead and put the grid in there.
All right, and Karen was asking if you ever use pin frogs.
Pin frogs. I used to years and years and years and years and years ago. And I know that there's a lot of designers that are they're kind of coming back as a mechanic. And I haven't recently. I do like them. But when you're creating production work, I just think it's an added extra. That's, you have to add the money for it. And you have to know how to design in it. So if you're skilled in designing in it, then they're great. If not, they can almost be a hindrance in the way you design. Production work, they're not good. They add cost to your design. And if you learn how to design properly in a vase by weaving your flowers together, you really don't need a pin frog in this type of thing. Now, in other containers, again, it's the type of design you're creating and the mechanic that you need to achieve the design you're trying to achieve in the container. So I don't use them on average because I'm doing a lot of, when I freelance, I go out and I'm doing lots of massive production work. And so we don't always use them, but for fun at home, I do use them. I hope that answered your question. Another design, I love this little fa la 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 box. A little housekeeping note on these. So this, along with the Santa gnome, which you're going to see in just a second here, will be featured on FTD and ProFlower. So the public, everyone, the consumers are going to see this. They're going to know that this is available. And again, it's the same. I think it's the exact same size. It is. It's the same size as the white one, but it's just really sweet, cute. Just adds a pop of color. Did you have a question? I thought I heard something. No?
Nope, no question.
Okay. And I did the exact same style of design where I created the hedge of my greens, and then I tuck a couple little, I think there's 3 red carnations down in there, and there's 2 stems of the miniature carnations and 1 stem of the green chrysanthemum, and that arrangement is done. When I have a novelty container, I don't want to overdo the arrangement. I want the novelty part to be seen and recognized. I don't want to do anything in there. If I were to do the arrangement like I did the long and low designs where everything kind of comes down and covers that, then I'm losing, the importance of what a novelty container is. So I want to look to what the container is and then enhance it. I don't want to cover it. So this type of vertical hedge design really, really lends itself to something like this fa la la box.
Susie, we have a question. Would you add branches to the hedge designs? Like birch or?
Right, flocked branches or birch branches to give you more height. That would be really, really cute. Great idea. And then we have the ornament arrangement, and the white ornament is going to be featured on FTD only. And actually they're projecting that this is going to be one of the #3 bestsellers. So if you haven't gotten a hold of any of these, you may want to consider getting some right away, because these are really, I love the finish, this porcelain-like finish. It's not overdone, and it kind of reminds me kind of like, I don't want to say yarn, but it just has a really soft finish, and it's not overly, I don't know, it's just, I'm losing my words now.
It has like a sweater look or a
Yeah, that's
sweater.
what it is. Thank you. A sweater look. That's perfect. The pattern on it, it looks just like a little sweater, but
Yeah, and cozy.
yes, it's comfy and cozy. So again, I don't want to, just because it's a round container, we think we just have to do this round little ball of flowers. I wanted some, visual impacts. And so I had my carnations coming up. And again, there's that kind of a modified crescent look that we're seeing in so many of the designs right now. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 carnations, 2 stems of the Alstroemeria, and 2 stems of Hypericum. So not a whole lot of flowers, so that you don't have a whole lot of insertions, makes it really quick and easy to make, and bringing it out. But still, you can see that even though these are coming out and down, I'm not covering my container. That's really important. You don't want everything hanging down over this cute little sweater container. So the ornament container I just loved. I thought it was going to be, it's a fun one to design. And then last but not least, we got our little gnomey, our little gnome guy. And so I started making an arrangement in this, and a typical little arrangement. And then I thought, I had this beautiful boxwood that they sent me, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put a boxwood tree in his little hat. And I've started to see more people do little trees, and they're doing them with all the different furs and evergreens. But I'm kind of old school, and I wanted to go back to the boxwood tree. And so I created a little boxwood tree. Plus, that's kind of like the gnome shaped hat. And you can really decorate it any way you want it. But I left the back open so you could see my mechanic in here. And it's I actually have a piece of foam that comes to about right here. And then it's one piece of foam that I've kind of shaped down. So it's kind of tree shaped, conical shape. And then I've taken a hyacinth stick down through the center so that the 2 pieces of foam connect. And then I've taped it. I've taped it 2 ways and then around so that it's nice and secure in there. And then all you need to do once you do that is take your boxwood. And again, I like to, I prepare it all so that I'm not cutting one at a time. And with boxwood and boxwood trees, I mean, you really have very little waste. That's all that's left. And I'm going to use this one too. That's all that's left. And then I'm just going to come in and stick it into my foam, following that shape, that cone shape, that tree shape. Kind of to turn it here. I can't see what I'm doing. And a little trick on the box, when it came in, it was very dehydrated. And so I just ran it under some water, kind of let it soak in my sink for a little bit, and it kind of rehydrates itself. And I know that early on in my career, I worked in a flower shop that we did hundreds upon hundreds of boxwoods. And if you've been in the industry long enough, you probably have the same stories at the Christmas time of just making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of boxwoods. But we used to take 5-gallon buckets and fill it up with water and put a little, we actually just used a little cap full of bleach, not a lot, just a little bit. But you could also use floral preservative just to kind of keep the water clean. It's not really going to feed the flower, but it's mainly just to keep the bacteria out of the water. And just, we would unpack the whole crate of boxwood and submerge it in 5-gallon buckets of water. So then as we, started to make our boxwoods, that we knew that all the boxwood was hydrated and beautiful. And, we have people telling us all the time that their little boxwood tree lasts away until Valentine's Day. So make sure that you have your boxwood that's hydrated. Okay. And if you need to, you can come back and with a pair of clippers, if you want it really trimmed and manicured, and just give them a little haircut here and there to make sure that you have a nice clean. But there's the gnome with the little boxwood tree all ready to go out on delivery for the holidays. So if you have any other questions, that's my last design.
Susie, I don't have any questions right now, but that is so super cute. I love it.
Cute, I know.
I have to say that I feel like you did such a great job of showing, because we've got these codified containers. Everybody knows, obviously we've got the recipes. And so when that comes, then the orders that are coming in on FTD and Pro Flowers and that are coming, or florist to florist orders, when your customer's ordering that specific codified arrangement, yes, we're filling that to container, to that recipe. But there's so many other great, cute, fun, creative ideas that you can do to use those containers so they're not sitting on your shelf after the holidays. And you've got some great fun in-store specials that you can do as well. So I love that.
It's very important. I mean, you do such a great job. FTD does such a great job at creating great arrangements in the containers that you provide. But sometimes we know our customers might want something a little different. The style or the brand of our business may not match with what what everybody else is doing, or even what FTD is doing. But the container is awesome. So it's okay to do some that exactly how they're codified, but then go ahead and add your creative touch to other ones. That just broadens who your customer base and who you will appeal to. So don't feel that you're only restricted to doing exactly how it's codified. Of course, you need to do that when the order comes in and fill it to how specific it needs to be. And then, but get creative once in a while and have some fun with these containers, because they're great and they just really offer a lot of design opportunities. So get creative.
Cool. Thanks, Susie. We do have, Amy's got a question. Who's the little guy above the fa la la box? I'm not sure if
Little guy above the fa la la box.
I don't know. It might be just that there's some greens moving or something, and like with the.
Oh, could be. It could be. I don't know what you're seeing.
It's on the table in front of you, the fa la la box.
No, there's just this, and then there's greens right here.
Yeah, that's it. Those are the greens that are moving. Yeah, I bet that's probably it.
Cedar.
All right. Well, thank you, Susie, so much for sharing your awesome, creative, incredible talent with us. We're open, guys, for any final questions. So simply type those in the chat box. And Susie, while we give people a chance to type any final questions, let's remind the FTD members that are watching that you get a 15% discount for all orders placed on ftdflowerexchange.com. That's valid. That starts tomorrow, September 22nd through the 30th. Anything that's good on any orders for anything that's currently on the site through, and that includes pre-books through the fall. So any of that stuff. This will also be, you'll get a follow-up email with the link for the recording to this. And I've got that and I'll have that added in there as well. So if you aren't able to write down as fast as I'm sure I'm talking, that will be available and you'll see that tomorrow as a reminder. So.
Awesome.
All right. I don't see any other questions. It looks like everybody's just thanks. Awesome. Love it. So yeah, we're out of questions, everyone. Thanks for attending. As I said, a recording will be available on demand on the FTD Mercury Network Florist YouTube channel, and that link will be included in the email you receive tomorrow. And for more education programming from FTD, visit ftdi.com to register for those upcoming free webinars and design shows, as well as viewing the past education programs on demand. So thanks, everyone.
All right, well, good luck and have great and successful holidays, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Janet.
Thank you.